Hi guys, today we will show you a 2008 sci-fi comedy movie called Superhero Movie. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. Rick, in his teens, is clumsy. Can't even ride the bus without bumping his head on the doors. Jill Johnson is his classmate and neighbor, the object of his intense infatuation. But she is dating someone else and rarely notices him. Rick's best friend Trey advises him to forget her during their field trip, because she is with this popular group and claims that these students never interact with anyone outside their group. The Amalgamated Genetics Lab is where the students find a variety of genetically modified animals when they eventually arrive there. When Rick sees Jill admiring a beautiful bird, he offers to take a picture for the school's publication. When Dr. Strom, the head of the research department, says flash photography is not allowed because animals are sensitive to light, Rick doesn't pay attention. As soon as he takes a photo, the bird catches fire and falls to the ground. He immediately steps on it to extinguish the fire. When it sticks to his shoe, he kicks it away, causing the dead bird to hit Jill's boyfriend, Lance Landers. Lance's uncle Lou Landers grabs Lance's shoulder, preventing Lance from hitting Rick. The students are introduced to Lou by Strom. He is the CEO of the company and a visionary. Later, when Rick notices Lou coughing up blood, he asks him about his health. Rick tells Lou that his parents unfortunately passed away 9 years ago, at which point Lou recognizes him as the son of Blaine and Julia Riker. As soon as Lou leaves, Lance shoves Rick into the animal pen. When Rick falls on poop, he grabs a bottle labeled H20 and sprays it on his shirt. He soon discovers that the bottle is actually filled with a substance called H209, not water. Strom explains to the entire class that this substance is a potent aphrodisiac, capable of attracting any animal. The experimental animals quickly start to pounce on Rick. Strom shows the students a tank of genetically modified dragonflies. He notices that while Jill only counts 6, there should be 7 in the tank. Shortly after, the 7th dragonfly appears and stings Rick's neck. Just as Strom opens the door to let more animals into the lab, Rick hits a shelf, splashing more water on himself. Many animals pile up on the boy, unable to resist the aphrodisiac. Later, the school informs Rick's Aunt Lucille that her nephew has just left the field trip. Rick is about to enter the house, swaying from the dragonfly bite. Soon after, he falls asleep in bed, and his uncle Albert advises him to go through puberty. Lou informs his business partners that he has a terminal illness and only has 1 hour of life left at the merged headquarters. To survive, he plans to use a device that can alter DNA and heal the body. Lou disregards Strom's warnings that the machine hasn't been tested and may be faulty. When the device is activated, it immediately begins to change Lou's genes, but it explodes due to overheating. Lou's business partner, Carlson, who thinks the machine is broken, expresses his pleasure to take over the company after Lou's death. When Lou grabs Carlson's hand, Carlson's life force seems to transfer to Lou. Carlson turns into an old man and dies in an instant. Afterwards, Lou leaves the machine, notifying his team that they need to replace personnel. Strom screams as he sees Lou drain the life out of his remaining business partners. Rick wakes up after 5 days of being unconscious and discovers that the wound from the dragonfly bite has healed. While researching the effects of the bite online, a person called Prof 5016 contacts him and claims to have a solution. The unidentified person advises Rick not to look for him because he will find him. At the start of Rick's college science fair, the principal announces that Stephen Hawking will be a guest professor at the school and will conduct research on the extremely rare element cerium. Hawking invites the students to smoke marijuana with him because he is depressed due to his disability, but nobody is interested. When Rick tries to drink from the water fountain, his hand gets stuck in the ceramic. He pulls his hand away and notices it's full of hair. When he tries to move his other hand away from the fountain, it detaches from the wall, hits the back of his head with a spear, and then still stays attached to his hand. Lance tries to hit him in retaliation, but he manages to dodge his strike. On the other hand, Rick doesn't notice, and the third punch misses. Rick collides with the principal while escaping from Lance. His hand gets tangled in her chest. When he pulls it away, he bumps into Hawk, who then hits a beehive. Later that day, Rick realizes his newfound abilities and decides to test them by climbing and breaking walls. When he sees an old woman about to be hit by a speeding truck, he pushes her away. Rick gets hit by the truck, but escapes unscathed. Despite the woman he pushed away getting smashed by a tree-cutting machine, witnesses still praise him as a hero. When Rick returns home, he tells Albert and Trey that he seems to have developed superpowers. He believes he has armor skin because he was bitten by a dragonfly with a hard exoskeleton. Albert is skeptical, so he tries to stab Rick. When the knife bends but Rick is unharmed, both are convinced. Despite Trey and Albert's encouragement, Rick insists on being a normal kid. Albert then tells him that his father would never want him to do that. Rick goes into his room and recalls the times when he went to see the opera with his parents as a child. After the show, Brian sees little Rick upset about the unfairness of the situation and tells his son that one day he will change things, and people will see him as a hero. Under the threat of a gun, a robber tells them to give him their stuff. Rick fights with the thief to get back the Brian family's phone. Brian and Julia both get shot while trying to control the gun. Another streetlight shines on Julia. The robber sees Brian and Julia lying on the ground and runs away. Brian is dying, and he tells him that Albert will take care of him. Rick will get all of his things, so Blaine tells him to sell all of his Google stocks. He tells the young man to invest a lot of money in Enron. Brian gives him the family ring and tells him he will be a hero. Rick hears Jill and her mother arguing outside the house. Jill quickly tells him that she is upset because her parents want her to go to college, but she wants to dance. Jill says that Rick does more for her than her boyfriend when he helps her. She worries that she may not be suitable for Lance, because she dates him to get away from her father. Lance drives a luxury sedan to pick up Jill. Before she leaves, Jill begs Rick for one last ride. That night, Rick goes online to find a cheap car, tells the professor in a video to learn how to control his power. The next day, Rick, Albert, and Lucille go to the bank to get a loan to buy a car. Albert waits in the car while Lucille comes in to meet him. Thompson immediately rejects Rick's loan request. Rick begs Thompson for a car, but Thompson says he doesn't care. Rick opens the door and lets a bank robber in. Thompson criticizes him for letting that person go, but Rick says he doesn't care what Thompson thinks. Rick hears 2 gunshots when he's outside. He finds that the thief has shot his uncle, but his uncle is still alive. He looks at the building and grasps the essence of the secretary. Rick watches Jill comfort Albert in the hospital. Rick thinks Albert's death is his fault. He calls himself a loser, but Jill says that his uncle believes in him, and it's never too late to become who he wants to be. After leaving the hospital, Xavier takes him to a non-Asian school. Xavier says he founded the school to help people learn how to control their talents and use them for good. Rick says he can't fly, but the professor says he's the best superhero ever. Xavier promises that once he knows what this is, he will teach him how to be brave. He gets hit by Mrs. Xavier, who tells him to make a suit. After putting on the Dragonfly suit, Rick flies to a tall building. He jumps down, but he doesn't fly. He crashes into a dripping beast statue. Rick gets the name Dragonfly even though he can't fly, because he's been brave throughout the city. Strom tells that to survive, he must kill one person every day in the merged office. He tells Lou that he needs serum so he doesn't have to kill people every day. After reading a news report about Hawking's research, Lou decides to steal the rare element serum from the university lab. Rick wants to be a photographer for the local newspaper because he heard that the paper pays for Dragonfly's photos. After hearing about the university standoff with the police, he leaves the interview to find out more. Hourglass character Lou breaks into the research center in armor and steals the serum. When Dragonfly arrives, it throws Hourglass against the wall. Hourglass has 3 titanium blades, which can harm Dragonfly. Hourglass breaks through the wall. Trey says that Rick, while recovering at home, is easily hurt by titanium blades. Rick rejects Trey's proposal for cooperation. Rick stares at Jill through the window, so Lucille gives him some advice. She tells him that being with Dragonfly might put his life in danger, as those who dislike him would try to harm his friends and family. Rick sees Jill outside the theater. She has just auditioned for a play. Rick wants to tell her that he is Dragonfly, but Lucille advises him to keep his identity secret to ensure everyone's safety. When Jill walks home alone, thugs push her into an alley. Just then, Dragonfly fights them off. Jill watches in awe as a man's head hits the wall. He cruelly breaks the thug's arm. After defeating her attackers, Jill passionately kisses Dragonfly in gratitude. Lou discovers that if he kills a lot of people, he can live forever. Jill and her family celebrate Thanksgiving at Lucille's house. As they begin to make the turkey, Lance tells Jill he has invited Lou. Rick runs home as fast as Dragonfly. When Lucille is busy, Lou visits Rick, but Rick hides in the ceiling. Lou is still in the restaurant when Rick arrives in his usual attire. Lou and Rick notice each other's wounds during dinner and make up stories to hide their identities. Before they eat, Lou asks Lance to leave. Rick tells Jill he loves her while Lucille sleeps on the couch, farting. Jill wakes up when Rick farts. Lou returns as Hourglass, breaking their intimate moment. Rick attempts to defend himself with a metal ball, but the ball bounces around the room, hitting the man's head. Lucille gets killed by Hourglass, even though Rick is asleep. Rick goes to the hospital to check on Lucille, but the doctor tells him Lucille is dead. The doctor then tells Rick that Albert is awake, but warns him not to tell him anything bad, as it might put him back into a coma. But when the doctor comes in, he mentions Lucille's death. After Lucille's funeral, Rick tells Jill he doesn't love her anymore. He knows that being with Jill would put her life in danger. Rick starts to feel depressed and no longer wants to be a hero. Rick says he can't be a hero because he couldn't prevent Hourglass from killing Lucille, because he can't fly. Trey tells Rick that Hourglass will kill a lot of people, making him look like a hero. Albert says being a hero for the right reasons is more important than success. After convincing Rick to become a superhero again, the gang finds out Hourglass will attack the Empire City Convention Center, where thousands of people will be attending the World Humanitarian Awards. Albert goes to Hourglass's location with Trey and Rick, but they don't know what Hourglass is. Lou, Lance, and Jill go to the convention center. Rick later seeks help from Lou, but he doesn't know Lou is Hourglass. Lou says he saw the Dalai Lama holding a cerium can. Rick doesn't know what Lou's Hourglass is. Rick turns into Dragonfly and attacks the Dalai Lama when he is receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. Considering the Dalai Lama might have cerium under his robe, Dragonfly takes him out. A fight breaks out in the convention center after Dragonfly fights off the security team. After getting the cerium, Lou disguises himself and runs to the next convention hall. After following him, Dragonfly finds a formal event, HeroCon, taking place in the hall. Hourglass blows up the ceiling, then lands on Dragonfly. Jill jumps in front of Dragonfly to block the titanium blade shaped like an hourglass, but she gets hit in the stomach. Dragonfly takes Jill to the roof so she can face Hourglass, who is taking people's lives at the convention. When he gets there, Dragonfly grabs Hourglass's arm, transferring some energy to Jill. When she wakes up, Jill finds out that Hourglass is only a few seconds away from making her immortal. Hourglass then throws a bomb that sticks to Dragonfly with a suction cup. The Dragonfly does a backward somersault to get his crotch to line up with the Hourglass, which won't go away. Dragonfly survives the bomb, but he finds that Jill has injured herself falling from the building. When Rick's family calls, Jill recognizes Rick, and Rick jumps down to follow her. Jill tells Rick that as long as she's in his arms, she doesn't mind dying. Dragonfly grows wings after a kiss and a flight to the roof. Later, Rick and Jill climb up to the clouds. Rick tells Jill that as long as there is evil, he will become the savior. As they gaze over the city, a helicopter hits them. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like. It really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.